conversation. Did you ever think in like 20 years ago, 10 years ago, that we would be dealing with men cuddling in the church?
No, not only that, but not only men cuddling, but maybe even possibly living together, just as long as they don't actually literally have sex.
Right. Spooning on the table.
Yes, it's a very special friendship.
Oh gosh. What a time we live in, man. And seriously,
what a time to be alive.
Right? I'm very pre-mill every day going forward right now, seeing all the stuff in the news. If positive stuff makes you that post-mill, I mean, the stuff in the news is making me that pre-mill for sure.
I hear you. Yeah, I can understand that. Every day that goes by, I question myself a little more,
I know, it's so true. If you're not questioning yourself, there's something wrong with you, that's for sure. Welcome to Reformgelical, where the Reformed and Evangelicals meet. We are live streaming for the last time on all the social media sites. Well, I shouldn't say the last time, but we're going to for now, we're going to move back to our original format, where if you would like to be part of the show, interact, comment, you're going to have to become a Patreon member and support us. So go to patreon.com/Reformgelical, support us, and come be part of the show. It's a really good time.
I'm going to hijack the beginning again because I have something to get off my chest. So when we first started Reformgelical, we would always start with a conspiracy theory. Here's something that I'm going to say about conspiracy theories. Mm-hmm. I don't mind if people think conspiracy theories are crazy, because to a certain degree, I also think some conspiracy theories are just absolutely crazy.
Right.
But what I don't understand is the unwillingness to even entertain them sometimes. Because let me just give you an idea of what I mean. Like it's a little odd. I mean, Matt, you could agree with me on this. It's a little odd that we sent a man to the moon, and then we erased all the data, and we forgot how to make the technology, and it's too hard to do it again, so we're not going to do it again. Like, that's a little weird, right?
Right.
I think that a reasonable person can say, yeah, that's something stinks there, but I'm not sure what it is. And I'm not saying you have to say, well, we didn't go to the moon. All I'm saying, though, is that you can understand why someone would ask the question, because that's weird.
Yeah, it's very weird. And like, there's many plausible explanations for it.
Of course.
Maybe they are going to the moon and just didn't want anyone to know anymore, and it's just top secret. I mean, there's a lot of things like that, right? But I agree. The weird thing is that you're not even allowed to question it.
Right.
Forget the conclusions, but you can't even ask questions, or you're a lunatic.
Right. It's pretty weird. And honestly, I can't trust anyone that you hear that and they're like, well, that's not weird at all. No, that how dare you even question it? Mm-hmm. Like, to me, I can't trust you because you're not operating in reality. That is very bizarre. That's a bizarre state of facts, or a set of facts. Here's another one that I find quite bizarre. This is not really a conspiracy theory, but I find it for any atheist, because for Christians, we understand how this works because God made things the way they are. But how is it that the sun is so many times bigger than the moon, like gigantic compared to the moon, and yet when you see them in the sky, they look basically the same size, and like almost identical? And not only that you can do those eclipses where it's like it's exactly the same size. And the reason is because what they say is that the sun is just about 400 times further away than it is as big as the ratio, or as big as the moon. So the ratio evens out the size from our perspective. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I can live with that.
Right.
But that's a pretty big coincidence. That's weird.
Yeah. Or purposeful.
If I was an atheist, yeah, exactly. If I was an atheist, I'd be asking all day, well, how is this the coincidence? Why? Mm-hmm. Anyway.
Yeah. No. And this was something I wanted to talk about anyways, and this is a great segue to it, and then I'm thinking in lines with the thing that can't be mentioned, or our show will get censored and pulled off of all the networks. But it's amazing, almost like God made it that way. That's right, Sean. It's amazing to me how scared people are to question the government and the authorities.
Oh, yeah.
They're scared of even thinking, entertaining the thought that they could have an agenda other than taking care of them and doing what's best. Have you noticed that?
Oh, totally. I've definitely noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, no, go ahead.
Okay.
I was
I
going
was
to say
just
it's
saying
bizarre.
it ties right in with the conspiracy thing, but we're
Yes.
seeing this like with the freedom grabs that you say just mention that, oh, their numbers were wrong, or oh, hey, there's this conflicting data that's going against the narrative. And automatically they're just getting shut down. I can't even talk right now. Oh my God. The contradictory data is
Right.
illegitimate. There's no source for it. Like Christians, everybody, it's just like you cannot question them. And I feel like it is because we have government in such an inappropriately high place in our lives
Yeah.
that it would be too
Yeah.
scary for us to imagine a world where who we depend on actually doesn't want the best for us all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right. I mean, did you read the Tim Challies article on the government?
No, but I made sure to watch your show so I didn't just regurgitate what you said like last time.
Yeah, no. So the point is though that like there's some truth in that article. I mean, it's not totally worthless. It's just like the truth that's in there is like very basic. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we should not just assume that the government always has it out for us and they're always wrong about everything. Of course not. But what he tries to put forward is this idea that they always have your best interests in mind, and that's a very silly thing to assume, considering the data that we have. And it's like, okay, I could maybe think, okay, maybe I go in optimistic that they're doing the right thing, but like this whole situation started, and I knew instantly that it was a big scam because it's like liquor stores open, porn stores open, abortion clinics open, all the stuff. So it's like, why is he writing this article? Like, no, he doesn't have our best interest. Clearly not.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
I know. Or like the different phases of what can be opened and what can't be opened in California. Like churches are third phase. They don't even get to come back the first phase.
And so it's like, and so I often, you're right. Like there's conspiracy theories, and to try to tie this all together, there's conspiracy theories that we know they go way too far. Like what I just said about the weirdness of the whole, we went to the moon, but we can't do it anymore. That's very weird, right? That's not a theory. That's just me saying that's a strange thing that like, I don't really understand how that could be.
Right.
But the theory comes into play is when you go too far with it. He's like, yeah. And it was Hitler that went to the moon and stole the moon plans. Like that, like I don't have any idea about that. All I'm saying is it doesn't make any sense what you're telling me about you threw away the data. That doesn't make any sense. Right. So we obviously know you can go too far with conspiracy theories, but I think you're right, Matt. You can have a trust in the government and the official stories to the point of extreme naivete.
Yeah.
Naivete.
And, that works. That sounds right.
Whatever.
But it's funny too, because it's like skepticism is a badge of honor in certain contexts. I can't believe AD just hung up on me. But I will tell you guys who are listening live, and those of you who are going to be listening to this recording, AD is gone. Oh, okay. Here we go.
I don't know what happened.
Conspiracy theory. Someone's cutting AD off.
The ERLC is behind this.
And now there's a lag.
Hold on. I got to get my shirt off here.
And now he's taking off his shirt. Oh my gosh. The show's coming off the rails again.
I'm back.
Oh,
Sorry.
good. Okay. But what I was saying, AD, it's really interesting that skepticism is actually revered as intellectual in certain categories.
Sure.
Like, there's that one guy, he's like a famous atheist, and he goes around and he debates Christians, and his magazine is Skeptic Magazine.
Right. Okay.
Like, you're known to be skeptical. You're a science man. You're an intellectual, and you just don't take things. But as soon as you start being skeptical of the government, oh, you're a Looney Tune. Oh, you're a tinfoil hat guy.
Right.
Like, how does that not just carry over to everything?
And the thing is, and I was thinking about this today early. And again, I'm sorry for stealing the top of the show here with my conspiracy.
No, we need
insanity.
to do this. I got called out for not having more conspiracy theories.
Well, honestly. Okay, good. So here's something else. The typical response to the conspiracy theory is how could you get so many people to lie? How could you get so many people to plan and nobody would say anything and stuff like that? And to me, that's like the least complicated aspect of this. Like if anyone's ever, I used to work for a company that used to fire a lot of people. We used to fire people. Like I had a hit list on my thing where it's just like all the people that vaporized over the years. I still have it. Anyway, and the thing is, like, if you've ever been fired before or seen people get fired, like, that decision didn't just get made like a minute before it happened. Like, oftentimes they've been talking about this for weeks, even longer. And it's like, and a lot of people knew about it and nobody said anything. Like, if you're motivated, you don't say anything.
Right. Yeah.
And so I'm not saying like these vast conspiracies are all true. I'm just saying like the common, like, how dare you say that? Like, that's just weird. It's not complicated. It's not hard for me to believe that the government could lie to us a lot.
Especially right now where we have a perfect case in point with the Mike Flynn trial, where the FBI said they had notes asking, are we going to trap him or are we going to let him tell the truth? That went on for years. The whole spying thing with Trump, you could spy on a political candidate for years and it'd be covered up by multiple agencies, not just one entity, multiple agencies. They covered it up for a long time.
Right.
And then, so how could we just like make that argument still to this day? I have no idea.
Right. It's you know, it sounds believable. I think why it's used so often is it sounds kind of believable. You're like, kind of like, yeah, well, man, like, I guess someone would have said something, you know, but when you think about it, it's like, no, because conspiracies actually happen all the time. Like, when you get put into a room and 20 of you get fired, like, you could say that was a conspiracy against those 20 people, but it's like not like ominous. It's just people sometimes make plans together ahead of time.
Yeah.
That's just what happened. And this Flynn stuff, by the way, this Flynn stuff is big.
It is big.
It's a big deal.
It is a really big deal. It's scary.
Yeah.
And it's right in line with everything else that's scaring me right now with the grabs of going against our freedom. I mean, I showed you that screenshot. It was actually our good friend Tom Buck who was pointing it out, where Hillary Clinton said that it'd be a terrible crisis to go to waste and that we should be asserting our agenda, or they're conspiring to use this to put forth their agenda. There are power plays being made all the time.
And this is the kind of tweet that would get labeled a conspiracy theory. Tom Buck says, you know, he quotes Hillary Clinton, and then he says, most of what's happening right now has nothing to do with our safety and everything to do with them gaining power over us. And I could easily see someone say, how dare you say that? How dare conspiracy theory? Like, but the thing is, like, it's all happening in front of our eyes. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And many of them, like Hillary, they're being open about this. This is what they want to do.
Because they think they can now. That's the scary thing. They didn't always used to be this open about it.
Right.
But who's pushing back?
Right.
Sure isn't Dr. Moore.
Absolutely. Sure isn't Dr. Moore, because Dr. Moore, he's busy showing us his book collection.
What was his last one? Stephen King and how it relates to Christianity or something like that.
Get off my internet. He needs to delete his account right now.
It's so bad. I go
actually, please don't delete your account. It gives me so much joy. It gives me so much joy.
It's the like bittersweet pill for me. I get so much joy out of it, and then depression thinking about how he still has a job.
Oh, it's such a joke. Like, every time he drops another one of these videos, I just laugh to myself, like, man, this guy is making a mockery of so many of my friends. And it's like, eventually they're gonna wake up. I can't imagine why they haven't yet, but it's like, eventually he's gonna do this one too many times, and people are gonna be like, well, what actually do you do? You know what I mean? Like, we pay you. You probably write your books on our dime. You probably promote yourself and all your website, all that stuff. We probably pay for all of it. Like, it's like, what do you do here?
He makes very harsh claims, like, these threats against our communities are uncalled for. Did you see that latest press release?
I didn't see that. What was that about racism again?
No, this is about the government overreach and making. Oh no, this was specifically about De Blasio saying that he's going to start rounding up the Jews.
Oh my!
Did you see that? That?
Of course, I saw that.
Oh my gosh! Oh, I love it. There's a great side by side. I forgot who did it. I just took the clip where he says this about the Muslims. To the Muslim New Yorkers beginning their celebrations tonight, we who need halal meals will have them act across 400 plus grab and go meal sites, right? He was serving it up. He was serving them up halal meals. And then it has the Jewish one next to it. My message to the Jewish community and all communities is simple. The time for warning is past. I've instructed the NYP to proceed immediately to summon or even arrest those who gather in large groups. This is about stopping the disease and saving lives. And our good old Russell Moore, our ethicist, our Christian leader, our ambassador, our lobbyist for the government. It's uncalled for, guys. Stop it. Not even stop it. I'm sorry. I added that. It's uncalled for.
Unreal. And the thing is, like serious things are happening, and so you'd really like to see him doing some real work. I just counted, by the way. You want to know how many Reading Rainbow videos he's done?
No, how many?
26. He's done 20. Wait, no. I missed this one and this one and this one. Okay, 27. Hold on. I don't want to count anymore. I think it's more than 26.
It's depressing.
It's kind of like, well, I mean, it's a pretty sweet gig he's got.
It is.
It's a pretty sweet gig. I mean, listen, I don't know if you guys pay for this YouTube channel. I would have to bet you do. But guys, like, enough's enough here. Like, he's laughing at you. Real things are happening, and he's making Reading Rainbow. A really low budget, awful version. Like, I'd much rather watch that guy from Star Trek all day. And at least he was a person of color too. Like, this is just a white guy telling you about his extensive library. I mean, look at this library. Have you ever seen a whiter thing than this?
Mm-mm.
Some black families I've heard don't even have any books. I've heard that. And yeah, I've heard that. I heard that's an example of systemic racism. And so if that's true, and he's flaunting his library here, I got to say, you need to have a little more empathy, Russell Moore. Look at these awful videos. Holy smokes.
It's out of the whole time to come out with this and do this terrible stuff. Now.
Right. That's why I'm saying he's laughing at you, because he could not have picked a more tone deaf, like, awful time to do this. Right. So many of you have been literally banned from working. So many of you, you're not sure how you're going to feed your family over the next month. And you are paying this guy to sit in his nice little house, which is fine. It's nice to have a nice house, and to do these terrible book videos. And I'm not going to laugh at his views, because my views are down too. But I'm sure he's paying a lot for these. Me and Matt were joking, because if you look at my microphone here, it's like taped together. I don't spend anything on this, but he's got a really cool Batman comic book collection that he wants to show you.
It's like, we are in a time that a year ago, no one would ever believe. It would be conspiracy theory to say that the government was going to keep you from worshiping, was going to allow you to go back at a certain stage far after other entities.
Maybe, because we could have a second wave too. Don't forget about that.
Oh, gosh.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No. It's totally true. This could just happen all over again. And I have no doubt that they would try it, because their pushback has been minimal. It's most local and state authorities have operated well and in good faith. Let's keep it that way. Russell Moore, quote unquote.
Let's keep it that way.
Let's just keep it that way, guys. It's cool. We're all cool, right? There's no need for this. There's no need to be like this. That's how I imagine he talks.
He does.
But we would have never imagined a year ago. And then when you finally do get to go back to church, when the crown allows you to worship again, they have regulations on what you can and can't do.
Would you like to do you have those queued up on what we're allowed to do?
I do not have. Do you?
That's
have
okay. No. It's something like, I like it. You can only be at half capacity. So if you're used to having 100 families, you got to tell half of them to go stay home.
Yeah.
Because you
no
can be at
communion.
half. No, definitely no communion. Now, this is important, because God, when he commanded that, we take the body and the bread, he didn't account for, bacteria, viruses. He didn't know. So it's like, now we know. So we know that you can't take communion until we say you can, of course. Oh, and also, of course, I mean, this should go without saying, practice social distancing, please.
But we have to give Jesus a break because it's not like he knew about contagious diseases back in his day. I
No,
mean, leprosy was not contagious at all,
no,
right?
definitely not. And I definitely never researched on the internet whether or not leprosy could be asymptomatic. I definitely never did that, and
Ooh,
it definitely he didn't know that it could. So, that's a tough one too.
that
It's a
changes
tough
that
one.
changes
Changes
things.
things. Does change things.
Yeah, this is like funny and it's probably really good for my mental state, but this stuff pisses me off to no end.
Woo! That's a bad word I heard.
I know it
You,
is.
so you listen. You need to just calm down. Tell me how mad it makes you.
Oh, I'm
Wait, hold on. Before you do, Marcus Pittman's doing the anger-thon. What is it called? The anger thing or whatever.
Oh,
Let's
yeah.
let's do some right now.
Okay. But I just want to say, and it comes from this, like, I feel like I'm in that scene in Braveheart where some of us are fighting the good fight and we look back for our reinforcements to come. And then Robert the Bruce turns around and walks away. And there's that one picture where he's all bloody in the face and he just looks horrified. I think that's even a meme that's going around right now. That's what I feel like. I look around and I see the people that should be fighting alongside of us, the Russell Moores of the world, other Christians, even the people that are not in leadership. And they're fighting, they're concerned about the wrong things, fighting the wrong people, having the wrong perspectives. And I feel like there's a few of us getting slaughtered by the government, aka England. And we're here in our kilts getting all bloodied up. And it's like I don't have time to go teach them why they need to be fighting with us.
Right.
But I mean, I got in this huge Twitter fight with this Neil dude. He's a pretty influential guy, like 5,000 followers. And he's criticizing the doctors coming up with a counter narrative, the Stanford studies, the studies that are saying that the death rate isn't as far. And he's being super critical of them. And he doesn't even watch the video, but doesn't criticize the government when he shuts down the economy.
Wait. That doesn't sound like the Neil I know. I know this guy, Neil.
Do you?
He's a decent guy. Yeah. So here's my take on Neil. People have asked me this many times, and a lot. And just so you know, many people have encouraged me to criticize Neil's stuff. And I haven't done it yet. And I like Neil. I think he's on the right side of the social justice issue in general. But he's one of these guys that, like, he says so many smart things, but he's also like, he wants to. He would say he wants to believe all things to the point of extreme naivete again. So he's one of these guys that says, Resolution 9, that was great. It was a great resolution because I know these guys, and what they meant to say was that critical theory was bad. It's like, wait, hold on. What? That's not what it said, obviously. But then he would say to you, well, you're not assuming the best. You should assume the best. And so he's kind of like got his one foot on each side, and he's trying to stay relevant with the big wigs and the main guys, the main players in Big Eva. I believe he might even go to JD Greer's church or something like that. So like he doesn't want to go full tilt against it, even though he understands how dangerous it is. So he's one of these, like, he wants to be super winsome. And I don't think he would take that as an insult. I think he would say, yes, it's exactly what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. So what ends up happening is he takes the approved position more often than I think he should. And I don't want to say he knows that he does that, but I think he does it strategically. Anyway,
no, I think he totally does. And I don't know the guy, but I'm just sick and tired of that. To me, it's Weasley. Ooh, because we literally were going back and forth for like an hour. It was a civil debate. It was fine, but he would not answer my questions, try to change the subject, and he lambasted these guys and started speaking like he had a position of authority when he doesn't even watch the video. And doesn't even admit it or say he didn't watch the video until like an hour into a debate, which to me is, if you're going to think the best and be somebody who wants to be on the right side and believe the best, like you're saying, then you're not going to criticize people and for people that are sharing this video when you haven't even seen the video yourself.
So what's interesting about that is, here's something else that I think is true about Neil. And I don't think he would take this as an insult either. He tends to be very granular. So in other words, I'll watch a Jamar Tisby video in 5 minutes, and I'll produce a video about it. And sometimes I'll even just do a live reaction, like on the off the cuff kind of thing, which is dangerous, and it has gotten me into trouble before. but like that's how I do it. Like, and it depends. And sometimes I'll dive deep, right? But he like is a super hyper focused on little tiny things and tiny details. And so while I'll criticize Jamar because I know what he's saying,
yeah.
And this is just I don't have a specific in my mind, but like I'm just telling you, like I'll know what Jamar's trying to do. He'll focus on key words, and he say, "Well, what Jamar's referencing there is so and so over here, and we need to understand that in its full context before we respond to Jamar." Even though I know exactly what Jamar's saying, without knowing the full context of what he's referencing, and so he tends to focus on specific things. I wonder, did he explain why he didn't watch it before commenting on it?
He said it couldn't be taken down, but everyone else in the stream had automatic like clips of where the full thing was. Like, oh, here's the link to the full thing. Here's the link to the full thing.
Oh,
so
okay.
I know he didn't really research
it. You're saying. I see.
He didn't look for it.
So what was his problem here? Because
his problem was some statistical analysis of it.
Okay.
That they didn't have a random sample size, which is what you should have.
Sure.
In statistics to make a fair sample where you don't have bias of any kind, which is a statistical term of bias, not saying like a bias like I'm a Republican or like of a Democrat.
Sure, right.
You can have like a sampling bias where if you only are testing people that come to you, well, that's not random, and that you're going to have faulty data, which I agree with. But the thing is he saw that clip and didn't see the other pieces where they were using other data as well, other studies from other sources. And this is why I think he's Weasley. And I'm not even picking just on Neil. Neil is just an example of what I'm talking about in general.
Well, a lot of people were saying the same thing he was saying.
Yeah, a lot of people are.
Yeah.
To this day they are.
Right.
But none of them were critical when we decided to shut down the world economies with far less data from a communist nation and Italy. That's it.
Right.
And no one criticized them. But as soon as we go against the narrative, then it's, Inspector Gadget.
Right. Listen, and this has been my point from Jump Street. It's like I don't have a problem with doing things properly, gathering the right sample size, doing things the way you need to be doing them, right? But the reality is though that if you're going to sit here and tell me that these doctors are acting dangerously, fine. But the government has been acting dangerously from Jump Street. Right. They're telling us that this thing has on the low end 5% death rate. On the high end, I don't even remember how high it went, but it went really high. 10%, 12%. It's the bubonic plague, and they're like, well, that's why we got to shut it down. And I knew from the beginning that was. I was about to say, BS, the real word, but I knew I could smell it because you're also telling me that this thing is spreading so fast we can't even keep up with the testing. We don't have enough tests. And so we know that there's more people out there, but then they're telling me the exact death rate. And I'm like, whoa. That's malarkey. That's phony. That's false. Right. So here's the thing. So if we're going to do it right, you don't shut things down. You keep it open until we do it right. Mm-hmm. And so, okay, the doctor should have done it right. Fine. It's not like two wrongs make a right. I'm not saying that. But where were you when we're ruining the entire world economy, ruining people's literal lives? Mm-hmm. Like, where was this stuff?
Yeah.
And so even if the doctors are technically wrong, which I have no idea because I didn't go granular into the things. You know what I mean? Even if
they admitted they were wrong too. They were admitting that it wasn't perfect. That's the thing.
Just get out of town. No, they weren't.
Yes, they said they were extrapolating and that it wasn't perfect, but it's consistent with the other studies they've been seeing. I watched the whole video.
So you said that you can't. No. I interrupted you, but hold on.
Yeah.
You know what? Let me let you go because maybe you're about to answer what I'm about to say.
Oh, I was just saying. So through the video. And he's answering an interview questions that are hostile to him. Like the people interviewing him aren't agreeable. They're asking him all the stuff that all these people are saying and disproving him about. But he has his practice and he sees what he sees and he reports what his patients are, what the death rate is, how many people have it, all that stuff. And then he says, I go home and stay up till 3 or 4 at night reviewing all the other studies that are coming out and looking and seeing the consistency that the spread is far more and that the death rate is really much lower, which I know that you and I have seen studies like that too, outside of what he's been saying, that the death rate is much lower than what we've expected.
Well, it's just logical. It's just logical. If you're telling us there's a lot, you can pass it without knowing you even have it. You don't even have a sniffle. And we don't have enough tests so that even if you have symptoms, we might not be able to test you. If you're giving us that information and then telling us, but the death rate's 5%. I know you're full of it.
Right.
You're full of it. You have to be full of it. And I don't need a degree. I don't need a math background. I don't need to be a data analyst like you, Matt. And I don't need to be a super uber smart Neil, whatever his name is again, Shenvi. I just need to have common sense here. And so the point is, you're right. I guess it's just, I'm trying to think of a nice way to put this.
There's not. And that's the thing too, is I've been having these tweets and then people would DM me afterwards and say, he's really a nice guy. Like, I'm so sick of giving people a pass because they're a really nice guy, because they say things in winsome ways. Like, I don't care if Robert the Bruce is up on top of the hill and saying really nice things. If he's not helping us fight this battle, then he's hurting us.
The doctor, see, this is the thing that I'm thinking too. The doctor probably would never have had a video, never have done a press release, never have done anything with just his data, because he wouldn't have had a reason to, unless we already had overreacted based on faulty data. Mm-hmm. I mean, if we hadn't already done that, he would never have had an opportunity to say, look, I know this isn't perfect, but this is the data and this is what it's saying here. Seems to match what other people are saying. He wouldn't even have been on TV. You know what I mean? Like, what is the problem with that? I know the problem. It's not the official story that we're supposed to believe. Exactly. And believing, and you know what? This actually ties into what we were saying in the beginning about conspiracy theories. Because Neil Shenvi has to know that we close the economy based on faulty data. If he knows that these two doctors had faulty data, then he knows that we close the economy based on faulty data.
Yep.
But the question is, to Neil, to question that would cause him to be a conspiracy theorist. Yeah. And he does not want to be a conspiracy theorist.
Yep. And that's why I asked him that question 5 or 6 times. I asked him, then I screenshotted it, and every time he wouldn't answer the question, I put it back, and he wouldn't dare. And so what we have is him and others, a bunch of Robert Bruces on the Hill, being super skeptical about our formation, our attacking style, of William Wallace's and the Scots, and not saying one damn thing about the English. And it's like, what good are you up on the Hill being critical? Now, I'm not even saying like we should look over our faults and that we shouldn't admit when we're wrong and that we know who cares about what's wrong or right. I'm not saying that at all. But let's just be consistent here with our criticism. Let's be like holding people to the same standards. I don't know why we're trying to cripple people's legs that are on our team, guys. Like, the government is overreaching, is telling us how to worship right now. Like, this is what's on the line. This isn't academia. This isn't theoretical. This isn't a homework assignment. It's not a test grade. This is real life where 30 million people are out of work. Suicides are on the rise. And we don't know what's going to happen with the economy. We don't know what's going to happen with our churches going back. And here you are being critical on our own side.
Well, listen. It's science, statistics. So,
I don't know what to say about this, but it's insane. And then we have like the mayor of Bill de Blasio rounding up the Jews. It's like, are you kidding me?
I don't know, man.
These aren't red lights to people. We're still trying to get into the country club at this point.
Red flags, bro. You said red lights. Red lights is where the prostitution happens.
Oh, I said red lights. Dang it. See, now my whole video is discredited because people like Neil are going to point that one thing out and say I never should be listened to again.
Well, I'll say that. Well, that's actually what's. Listen. I don't know this. I have no idea. Right? People say I give Neil too much of a pass, and maybe I do. I don't know. But what I suspect happened here is that Neil saw a discrepancy, an error. You know what I mean? An untruth, whatever it is, a technical glitch, right? And my opinion on this is probably what happened is he saw that technical glitch and said, "Oh, these guys aren't serious. I mean, I can't get past that." And he never even thought about going past it. Yeah. Was he one of these? Because here's what I saw a lot of. I saw a lot of this. Was he one of these that was saying, well, I agree with their conclusions, I just don't agree with their methods?
No, he said I wasn't arguing. It was more Weasley than that. It's like, I'm not saying their conclusions were right or wrong. I'm just saying that their statistics were wrong. And anyone who shares this stuff is egregious. That was his word he kept using. It was egregious. But he didn't go after the conclusion.
That makes me want to share it for the first time. I have not shared that video. Somebody posted
great.
it on my Facebook, and I did watch parts of it. I didn't watch the whole thing. But somebody did share it to me, but that makes me want to share it just so I can be egregious.
I know. But see, that's the thing. It's like you're being Weasley, dude.
Yeah.
Like if it's the conclusions that are the problem,
right,
then say something about the conclusions. But you're just going to be nitpicky and then start lambasting people and demonizing people, not just them, but the people sharing it as well. You're Robert Brucing us, man.
Right, and I'm not saying that if it has the right conclusions, like you can disregard all of the methods. I'm not saying that, but what I am saying though is if the doctors are saying, look, this is not the way you would normally do this. This is a biased sample. I'm not saying that this applies to everybody, but here's what I'm seeing. First of all, there's nothing irresponsible about that, by the way. Mm-hmm. If you're saying that this is what I'm seeing and you're reporting it as what I'm seeing, then that's just the facts.
Yep.
Now, if you were to go then say, well, then this definitely means that's what's going on everywhere. Yes, that would be incorrect, right? That would be incorrect. But if you're going to say, well, don't share this because it's giving people the wrong impression, that impression, it can't just be like, this is what I think is going on with Neil, because for him, it's like, it's not really about like the big picture. It's about the specifics. So he doesn't really care about social justice, narratives. What he cares about is the method to get to it is wrong. Mm-hmm. So there still might be some truth there. That's what he always is saying that. Like, well, there's definitely some truth in this and this, racism, this and that. And it's like, yeah, but like that's actually what really matters, like the big picture, like the results. Mm-hmm. But so I'm not saying the methods don't matter. I'm not saying that. But if the guy's over here saying, look, this is what I'm telling you, and it stands to reason that this makes sense for everybody else based on what I'm seeing, there's actually nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing egregious about sharing that. Mm-hmm. Unless, and again, if you're going to, at least I will leave him alone if he would at least be consistent and said anyone who fear-mongered over the death rates of COVID-19 is egregious as well, then I would have no problem with it. I would think that you're wrong, but I think that is far more obviously egregious. And so if at least you're going to be consistent about it, I don't know.
So here's the rub.
Contradicting myself.
So I kept asking him why he wasn't critical, or like, show me where you're being critical and I'll leave you alone. Show me where you're critical about it.
So you were saying the same thing I just said?
Yeah, I said it to him multiple times. I had 3 questions. I was saying, show me where you were. Why weren't you doing it?
We think alike.
Yeah, I know. We totally do. That's why the show's so great. But then in his Twitter thread, he says, I don't know enough about the models to critique it. And the rub is, he didn't even watch the video of the stuff he is critiquing. He watched clips. Like, AD, if someone called us out for critiquing something and then we eventually admitted we never actually watched the whole thing.
Right. Well, and the thing is though, it would depend, because I wonder if he even heard the doctor say, hey, I don't apply this to everybody. This is not exactly how it's done, but here's what I'm seeing. Like, I wonder if he even heard that, because if you criticize him and say statistics don't work that way, and then later in the video the guy says statistics don't work this way, but here's what I'm saying, here's what I'm hearing,
right?
Like that would be a big boo-boo.
Yeah, I know. And what's funny is these doctors weren't even like as crazy as we are. They aren't even saying we shouldn't have shut down. They're saying, yeah, maybe we should have. We didn't really know. All we're saying now is for California specifically, it's time for us to reopen based on what we're seeing. Like, that was their push.
Right.
Right. It's
well, and the thing is, like, I'm pretty sure that most reasonable people would say, and I don't know if they said this or not, but based on what we're seeing, obviously we shouldn't be shut down. Now, if somebody else is seeing something different, okay, then we'll talk about it. Mm-hmm. But if all he's saying is based on what I'm seeing, if this is true for everybody, we should open up. again, that's nothing egregious about that.
Mm-mm.
I mean, there's nothing wrong about it. There's nothing incorrect about that. If what he is saying is true, based on that, there's no reason to shut down.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And for the record, I have invited him on the show. He didn't respond. It was pre this actually. It was pre this discussion.
Neil Shenvi?
Yeah, Neil Shenvi. He's allowed on the show whenever he wants. I think it would be a really great conversation.
I think that he would probably be more likely to come if I wasn't on the show.
Well, now me too.
But Neil knows I like him, and he knows that I think that his approach is naive a lot of the time, and he thinks that I'm a jerk a lot of the time.
I think he's Weasley, so.
And you think he's Weasley, so we all think of things that we can all be friends though. We can be friends.
Yeah, I'd be respectful.
You know, a lot of people think about Neil is that he's controlled opposition. So like he's against social justice, but not really. He's just there to give an air of credibility to the social justice people. Some people think that. That's a conspiracy theory.
Well, that would fit in my Weasley category for sure. For sure. All right, let's get off Neil. I feel bad talking this long about somebody without him actually being in front of us. But I think it's important because there's a lot of people like him. And like he's a character of a big problem that we have. There's a lot of people that do that kind of thing.
Right. No, I see what you're saying. Well, he can come on the show.
He can come on the show whenever he likes. I'll be respectful for him, and I will tell him that I think he's being Weasley. He might be a nice guy, but I'm done giving that pass. I'm done. So many people do it, especially in Christian circles. Being a nice guy isn't enough in times like this. It's just not enough.
So what would you say about someone who says you should give women a pass as well? So like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says something incorrect. You shouldn't really rip her too much because she's a woman.
Oh, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm giving a pass. I mean, I'm not giving a pass to people for like being naive or anything like that.
Oh, okay. Okay,
yeah.
Never mind.
No. AOC is in the ring and she deserves anything that comes at her. That's for sure. And if she can't take it, she should go back to being, in the home. She should go home. Hashtag. As John MacArthur once said, did you see Elon Musk come out, though, and start defending our freedom more than Russell Moore ever did? He said Elon Musk. What's going on is fascist. So what's going on right now is fascist, making us stay at home. Like, if you want to stay at home, stay at home. Basically, our arguments, AD.
I mean, it makes sense. It's just not. If you want to stay home, if you're fearful about getting COVID, or if you're in these categories, you should stay home if you want to. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people aren't, and so they shouldn't.
You know what was concerning to me though about this statement is that he is allowed to use the F word, but he won't use the S word, and that's what scares me to no end. Because this country is able to say fascist and call people fascist. We have Antifa. Donald Trump's a fascist. And that's like the cool thing to do, right? But socialism is the threat in our country and has the same overreach and the same policies that fascists do. And that's what's going to be taking down our country. It's the socialism. Like we were talking about Hillary Clinton, never let a crisis go to waste. We need universal health care. She wants to use this crisis to implement a socialist policy. And that's scary as fascism is. But we're not allowed to say that word in the United States. It's like the N word of politics.
Yeah, well, I'll say this, and I said this in my podcast today. Socialism is satanic. It is demonic. It is not in any way compatible with Christianity. It is actually antichrist in every way.
Yeah.
Everything about it, even the intentions, are evil. That's socialism. It's not.
Amen. You
cannot be a socialist and a Christian and claim the name of Christ any more than you can be an adulterer and claim the name of Christ.
Yeah. And to that, if you take that to logical conclusion, what do you say about the people that say Jesus was a socialist? I mean, you're blaspheming the name of the Lord. You're taking him in vain. You're ascribing things to him that he was not. And we have Weasley people that are entertaining this, that are allowing this to be taught in our universities, in our colleges. And it's cool because in the country club, it's cool to be a socialist, a democratic socialist.
This is true.
It is true.
It is true.
And so, yeah, I don't know, man. What a time we live in. What a time to live in.
What else you got for me, man?
I don't know.
I was interested in that. I didn't watch it, but the Elon Musk thing, I was interested because I saw a report, and the way they described it was an expletive lace rant on an earnings call, and the way that was framed, I was like, I should probably watch that. It's probably good.
Mm-hmm. That's for sure.
An expletive laced rant on an earnings call.
It's crazy. Man.
You know,
All right.
speaking of conspiracy theories, a lot of people think he's the CIA asset, but if this is true that he's going on expletive laced rants and stuff like that, maybe that pressure for being a CIA operative is starting to get him to crack a little bit.
Maybe,
That's
man.
a
Instead
conspiracy
of smoking
theory.
that weed.
That's a conspiracy theory, though. That's not. Yeah.
Well, speaking of, that video that you shared, man, that opened a lot of doors.
Oh, right.
Out of the shadows. Out of the shadows. The CIA in the Hollywood business.
That's interesting stuff, man. That's interesting stuff. I'll tell you right now. So some of this stuff, like when you think about like we're coming first full circle on conspiracy theories here. When you think about a lot of the stuff that we know is actually facts, like it's not in any way a theory. It's been admitted. It's been apologized for in some cases, like the things that would go on. It's pretty unbelievable that some of this stuff went on. And so that Operation Mockingbird about doing some of this stuff. Mm-hmm. This is like real stuff. This is stuff that's been essentially admitted. But what they always say is, well, we stopped though. We stopped. So, but we're sorry for what we did, but we stopped.
Right.
And it's like, well, why should we believe you? Like,
right. Why would you stop?
Right. But you can't question it though, because if you do, people, how dare you? How dare you, sir?
I know. I mean, they will spy on the president of the United States, but they definitely won't try to manipulate public opinion whatsoever.
So what do you make of a video like that? Because honestly, I don't know how much of it is true, obviously, but the questions that it brings up, it's just like that's some pretty heavy stuff.
Yeah, but those like some of those things have been consistent with what other people have been saying. Again, I don't necessarily jump to the conclusions they do, but it is interesting, like programming. Like, why are they called programs? That's kind of interesting. I know the CIA does do a lot of partnerships like that. I mean, there was like, they had those in other countries all the time. So maybe it's not even the CIA. It could be another organization.
Sure.
And I know that demonic stuff happens a lot. I mean, even Justin Bieber was saying that he didn't want to be part of that in the music industry and got shunned for it in a lot of ways. The child prostitution, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Those are consistent what I've heard throughout the years.
Yeah, that's pretty insane. Pretty insane indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Did y'all watch what was on Cross Politic yesterday?
Yeah, why don't you tell us who it was? I know we're like bad Fight Laugh Feast members. We don't watch the flagship show.
You got to be kidding me.
Oh man, do you watch any podcasts right now?
I can't have time for it, man. I'm trying to keep my head above water here,
I know. People will share with me like a podcast and be like, oh, you got to watch it. Like maybe I'll get to it. But then when people are like, you need to read this book. I'm like, do you know what's going on in my life right now? I cannot have time.
You're not supposed to say that, Matt, because Christians are supposed to be reading constantly.
I know.
So like, you're not supposed to say, in fact, if someone says they don't read, you're supposed to make fun of them.
Yeah, I know. That's a real Reformed thing more than just a Christian thing, by the way.
Is that right?
It very much is. It's like, who are you reading right now? These are the books I'm reading right now. And how old are they? How long have they been dead? Ooh, 300 years? You're super spiritual.
Well, I'll tell you right now, the last time I read a book, it's been a while because I just haven't had the time for it. Mm-hmm. I'm too busy making stupid YouTube videos.
I know. And people in my business show ask me this a lot. They're like, oh, what books do you recommend? And honestly, I don't recommend books at all anymore because with how much access we have with YouTube, with the internet, the knowledge you're going to gain from a book versus how much time it takes you to read the book is so lopsided and not beneficial. The ROI is very small when you can go learn that stuff on YouTube or the internet like instantly. So I don't recommend that anymore.
That's interesting because that's very contrary to a lot of what a lot of like gurus like to say.
Yeah,
you need to be reading books. That's what the gurus say.
It makes them feel smart, and then they can recommend each other's books where they get book deals. I haven't written a book, so I don't need to prop up the industry at all.
Sounds like Big Eva a little bit. Well,
Yeah.
a lot of times, like, if, it depends on what you're doing. Like, if you're trying to build like a wall or something, you can learn that on YouTube really, really quickly. Um, and some stuff like, if somebody asked me like a book I recommend for sales or something like that, like I probably would recommend a couple of videos that I know about. But to me, like sometimes it's just, you just got to do it. You just got to practice. And
Yeah.
like you get more value out of spending an hour cold calling, probably. I mean, cold calling, it depends on what you're doing, but like, making phone calls and talking to people and selling than you would probably reading a book about selling.
Right. Yeah, it's so true. Like a lot of this stuff, especially in business, like the practical learning and lessons you'll
Yep.
get are far more beneficial than just going through and doing it. And then just talking with people too. Like
Yep.
there's a lot of people that are more than willing to share with you their experiences.
Right. Talking and watching people do it too is,
Yeah.
is another thing,
Yeah.
and listening to how they do it. That's how that's how I learned how to recruit and how to sell in New York. I remember I had worked in Maryland for a year and a half, and I was just like, I was just right out of college, just doing whatever. And then I moved to New York, and there was like real professionals there. And so honestly, what I did was I just like copied what they were doing on the phone, and that's what I did basically.
Yeah.
And here I am 15 years later.
Dude, I just like I've had a lot of time to be reimagining and thinking about what education should look like.
Yeah.
And I forgot who it was just. Oh, I was talking with my friend Alex about this from ABWE, I don't know, the mission organization, and I think it was him. Anyways, we were talking about how high schools need to be completely changed from what they are today, where if you're in high school or if you get to high school and you are not competitive in education and those kinds of things and the aptitude, the discipline, then you shouldn't go to college. And high school should be used to do apprenticeship things. And when we say apprenticeship, we think automatically blue collar. But there's a lot of white collar jobs that you don't need to go to college for to be good at.
Right.
Recruiting is probably one of those things.
Probably.
And I don't mean that as an insult whatsoever.
Totally.
Another one I was thinking of was managing. There is not one great manager that I've had who credits their managing skills to what they learned in college. Not one of them.
No, not at all. Well, you're totally right about recruiting. In fact, I remember, I'll never forget this. I was sitting in my manager's office in New York, and I had become a manager a few months earlier, and we were trying to hire a bunch of people. And I kept telling him like this requirement for a degree, not only is it completely meaningless, but it's also hurting us because we have to pay more for these people, and we're spending more time recruiting for them because they have a lot more options. Let's just eliminate that. And he pushed back a ton. Finally, he just said, okay, fine. Just eliminate the requirement for a degree. We were able to hire not only way quicker, but way better people. Just all we had to do was eliminate that requirement. And it was like, there's just no reason for it. There was none. We can teach you how to do this. And you do not have to have had to go to college at all.
Yeah, it's amazing, and just I can't wait till this becomes like more full scale. Like we're starting to see it. The Googles, the Yahoos of the world have stopped kind of doing that, because in a lot of senses, you want those people in your work in your company because they're going against the flow.
Yep.
They're thinking for themselves.
Yep.
They think they can do it without it. Like there's some drive there. There's some
Yep.
outside the box thinking that actually turns out companies actually really like and need.
Yeah, no question about it. I'll tell you right now, I talk to hiring managers all the time, every day. A little less so these days, but I've talked to many, probably thousands of hiring managers over my years. Every time they tell me that they require a degree, I have to hold back laughter, and I every single time I say, why?
Right.
What is the reason behind that? And more often than not, it's like, well, HR told us so. And I said, you know what? Forget the degree. When you find the right person, you'll be able to convince HR you can hire them. And whenever they go with it, it's always a smoother process. It's always someone that you can get someone not only better, but a lot quicker. Always. Right. Anyway, here's what Wait a Minute said. Why don't you go, and then we can talk about cross-politics for a second.
Okay. I was just going to say, then basically it does the same thing that we do when we ask for diversity, where we need to hire a woman for this role, or we need to hire a minority for this role. You are like artificially narrowing down your search. We're basically chopping off your leg and making it far more difficult. You'll have to pay more because you can't find the right person.
Oh yeah,
Like, it doesn't make sense.
it makes no sense at all. All right, here's
Okay.
what he said. A pastor in Illinois. Oh, was this Kerry Gordon? Anyway, whatever. Pastor in Illinois. He wrote a letter to the governor, the sheriff, and the police.
Wow.
And he told them he was opening his church and it'd be in their best interest not to interfere with his church.
Good for him. This is what we need.
Was this Kerry Gordon?
Yeah.
It might have been Kerry Gordon. He's been unbelievably awesome to watch on YouTube and to watch on Facebook. Let me just see if this is Kerry
How do we
Gordon.
make more of these kind of pastors?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know this person at all. Don't even know who that person is you're referencing, but I guarantee he's not disqualified.
No.
Disqualified men don't act like that.
Kerry Gordon. Yeah, that's a. Tell me what you mean by that, because that is a very interesting idea. I think I'm on the same page as you.
Okay.
Tell me what you mean.
This is my theory. Is the reason why we have such effeminate pastors that aren't really willing to fight and stand up for anything is because they have so much guilt because they know they're not qualified and they don't deserve the positions they're in, either from being married multiple times, having disobedient children, just whatever the list is. They read through that in Titus and Timothy, and they know they aren't that person. And so you come with insecurities. You come with you just feel like you're a fraud. And when you feel that way, you are not in a position to fight like this pastor is.
Yeah. Yes. I don't know if we've talked about this on this show before, but
yeah, I don't remember.
I think you have hit the nail on the head. And it doesn't even have to be, in my opinion, it doesn't even have to be a completely technically disqualifying thing. It can just be sort of like I've never been able to beat my my effeminacy or my fight against anxiety or whatever it is. Like they just feel like a fraud, even if they're not. Sometimes it's like that. But I think you're right. I think, and I think, to be honest, I think for a lot of men, it's a porn addiction.
Yep.
Because that's the whole purpose of porn. By the way, it makes you, when you're constantly doing what you do when you watch porn, it pacifies you,
right?
And in a shameful way too. It's not like having a wife and having a family and
satisfying.
Like there's nothing satisfying about it. It's just pure shame, and it keeps you pacified. Like if an enemy wanted to, let's get back to the conspiracy theory thing for a second. If an enemy wanted to conquer the United States and make all of us slaves, what they would do is proliferate pornography as much as possible. That's how you destroy a nation.
Yeah, you'd leave the porno shops open, the alcohol shops open, and you'd close down anything that resembles freedom, churches, and so forth.
That's kind of what you're saying right here. And it doesn't have to be porn. It could be, like you said, it could be I've been married 6 times. It could be my kids are, off the wall crazy. I have no control over my family or something like that. Yeah. And I'm not saying every pastor who's not on our side here is like that.
No.
But you can definitely tell when there's a guy out there that's not that way. You know what I mean? Because he's a little bit not cocky, but he's just confident. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He's a warrior. He's here for the fight. And he's trained himself, he's disciplined himself, and he's prepared himself for these battles. And I think this is, again, I don't know if we've talked about on this show. I talked to so many people. I know.
Yeah, that's okay. You guys, you have a show every single day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, seriously. But we can get away with disqualified pastors in good times. That's
a good point.
We can get away with foolish leaders that don't fear God in the good times. But these are the times where disobeying God and appointing people to be pastors, appointing people that don't fear God into government leadership, it becomes evident of why disobeying God is so destructive. And that's what we're seeing here. The church hasn't fought. It closed down. Very few people, this is a 1 in a million pastor in Illinois.
Yeah.
There's another one in Idaho I hear about. There's some in Florida. But other than that, man, how many pastors are there in these countries, in this country? And nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have
I think,
disqualified pastors.
I think, this is, do you have a son or a daughter?
I have a son and a daughter due
A,
next week.
a son and a daughter do. Right, right. So I've got three sons. So when I talk to my sons about pornography, it's not going to be like, you got to keep yourself pure for your wife. I will say that, of course, but that's not going to be the main thrust. I'm going to tell them how it is. I'm going to tell them how it is. Pornography will make you a coward. It will make you feel nothing but shame all the time. It will make you to the point where you will just lay down and let anyone do anything because you don't have enough confidence in your own abilities to be a man in any way. It destroys that. It just destroys that.
Yeah, it like leaves you hollow where you don't have any foundation to stand on. It's the weirdest thing. And I'm saying this out of experience. I'm
Me
not
too.
even coming out of the
Me
high
too.
horse, right? Most of us have this experience and we know what we're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was in New York, like I was just living like everybody does. I had not a care in the world, but at the same time, there was like there was no substance to me. You know what I mean? Like there was just nothing. I was just existing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's actually the exact opposite of sex and marriage, where you're fruitful, you are lively. It's like it's so weird. It's the exact opposite feeling of when you are having sex in the context of what God actually designed and created. It's like
You're onto something there, my friend. You're onto something there. That guy is not disqualified.
No,
And that's an interesting way to put it, my friend. By the way, Pastor Kerry Gordon, Pastor Kerry Gordon is in Iowa, not Illinois.
Oh, got it. All right. Last question,
If
and
you're
then
looking for.
we'll close the show. Question: would a widower who remarried after the death of his wife be disqualified? I'm assuming from eldership. I'm not talking about salvation here. What say you, AD, to that?
I would say yes. A widower who remarried. So his wife dies, and then he gets married again.
So yeah, he's had multiple marriages, but it's not because of divorce. It's because of the death of his wife.
Yeah, I would say so. I'm not sure the arguments against that, though. What would the arguments against that be?
Yeah, I don't know either. I agree with you. I don't think. I think they would be disqualified. And again, like
They would be qualified.
Oh, they would be qualified. No, I would say they're disqualified.
They're disqualified.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And here's my position to this. I don't think it's sinful to get remarried. But what are the purpose of the qualifications? And I might be open to this. I'm not saying that this is 100% right, but this is my theory on this. Is the qualifications for eldership is not qualifications for righteousness or even qualifications to be a Christian.
Sure.
So in this case, I don't think you're sinning to remarry. You're free to remarry. In fact, Paul talks about it. But the qualifications are given to us to find who God has given and appointed to the role. And therefore, if they don't meet that, then how could they be the qualified person for that role?
Gotcha. I see what you're saying.
That's my argument. So where am I wrong here?
I don't know. I'll have to think about it. I've honestly never even heard that. So I'm not gonna think it through right now in the next. Well, we're overtime already. 3 minutes.
All right. Well, we'll think about that and we'll get back to it next week. Oh, should we mention who we have on the show next week?
Sure.
Your wife found out on Facebook and got mad that's how she found out. Summer Yeager is coming on the show next week. She asked me what she wants us to talk about, and I honestly have no idea because we don't plan this until the day of usually. So if for those of you watching, listening, start sending us your questions. What do you want us to talk about with Summer Yeager? I'm really excited about it. We go back and forth a lot on social media. Never actually met her in person or talked to her on a show. So this will be good. Do you know Summer Yeager?
Just online.
All right. Yeah. Well, so it'll be a good time. All right. Thank you for everyone who is listening live. And for those watching, please go subscribe to us, reformgelical.com/ nope, I totally butchered that. Patreon.com/reformgelical. We'll talk to you next time. God bless.
Later.